Hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are viewing my content for the first time, a special welcome to you. So today we're going to be discussing a very difficult topic, especially for young people in 2023, and in fact not just young people, even the elderly. The issue of unequal yoking. If you're someone who spent any time in the church, I'm sure you've heard people talk about 2 Corinthians 6:14, that you should not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. I actually like it in my version, so I'll just read it. My version that I'm using is this Bible. It's called the CSB version. 2 Corinthians 6 verse 14 says, "Don't become partners with those who do not believe. For what partnership is there between righteousness and lawlessness? Or what fellowship does light have with darkness?" And of course, this verse is normally preached or discussed in church settings, in particular in the context of marriage. Of course, when we consider the text from the CSB version, makes it very clear that the injunction not to be unequally yoked, it goes beyond the context of marriage, and it basically involves partnerships. It can be friendships, it can be partnerships in business, or any form of partnership. But for purposes of today's talk, I will confine it to the traditional context, which is the context of marriage. I know this is a very hard topic for a lot of people growing up in the church, for a lot of people who've been waiting on the Lord to provide them partners. And many get to a point where you feel, waiting on God is just not worth it. Maybe let me seek my own way. Let me find my own way, because I've been waiting, on God. And God did not show up for me. And that's certainly how I was feeling. I think it was 2018, where I have been waiting on God to come through for me. At that point, I think I had been single for like 5 years, going on 6 years. Of course, for most of that period, I think it was singleness by choice. But, once I started hitting like that 5-year mark, I wanted to be with somebody. I desired the companionship of someone I loved and someone who loved me. So I wanted to be yoked, and you are waiting on God, because in the church we're taught, if you're a good girl, you keep yourself pure, you work for God, He will provide you with a partner. And during that period of my life, or even prior, I believe when we view myself or me through worldly standards, at least, I was a good girl, I was active in the work of the Lord, but the partner was not coming my way. Until I met a friend. It was a young women's conference, and she told me news about herself, how she met someone, and even got married. But that's a story for another day. So she even got married. The guy was from Ghana, I believe, if my memory serves me well. And she tells me that she met this guy on an Adventist dating site. So I was obviously happy for her. I'm like, I also want to meet someone, so let me try it. So I tried the dating site, and it was not long, as after I joined, I met this person this person would eventually be part of my life for more than 3 years, or 3 years, thereabout. Anyway, I'm never good with this anniversary stuff, so yeah. But I think between 3 years and 4 years, yeah, he'll be part of my life. So I meet this guy on the Adventist side. Of course, because it's an Adventist dating site, the assumption is that he also would be Adventist. So I talked to him, we talked for a while, but what I must commend him for really is that soon after we started talking, I learned of the truth. So I was not blindsided, so to speak. I learned of the truth. He told me, like, listen, I am not a member of the Adventist church. Yes, I had a friend who was Adventist, and I developed some interest in Adventism. At least that's what he told me. So, of course, surely the missionary, automatically I think things, okay, at least he has an interest, in Adventism and the things of God. Maybe I can be an instrument, that God can use, to bring this guy to the other side. So even though I knew very early on that he's not Adventist, I decided to contract a relationship with him. So at first, I don't think it would be anything serious, actually. I mean, after all, it's online and the person lives thousands and thousands, of kilometers away from me. So I was just enjoying, being in relation with him, our conversations, our talks. Wow, man, it was good. And I remember at some point I even thought to myself, wow, I've never met such a man in Israel. So if it feels so good, if it is this good, surely it must be from the Lord. After all, I didn't go out of my way to look for someone who's Adventist. In fact, I found this guy while seeking God's will, meaning to find an Adventist man. So we talk, and after months, about 5 or 6 months of talking, we eventually meet. Okay, we met here in South Africa, because although I was a bit crazy contracting a relationship with someone I've never met, I also thought, if I'm going to meet this guy, it has to be here, in case, I've been catfished or some kind of serial killer or dubious person. So we meet here in South Africa. Oh my gosh, when I meet him, it's like I've known him all my life. So it was good, man. It was so good looking, and everywhere we went, people were so people were commending us everywhere we went. I think we actually look like twins. For those who've seen, they would have seen his photograph somewhere in social media. We look like twins, so my meeting with him just confirmed everything I had felt about him all these months before I even met him in person. He looked like, we're talking via video, but he did look like the person I was talking to. He sounded like the person I was talking to. It just felt so right. And of course, but now, the reality started dawning. Yes, it felt so good. I didn't want it to stop, and I kept praying, God, please make him an Adventist, so that you can bless our relationship, right? So on the one hand, it feels good, but on the other hand, it just dawns on me that it's no longer like play. This is real, because the whole time I never imagined that I would fall for him that way and actually go all the way into a relationship with him. So that's why for the whole duration we're talking on the phone, via video. Like, I was not really confronting this question of him not being of the same faith with me. So now that we've met, he is real. Oh my gosh, and he is better than what I thought or imagined. And the way he treated me, guys, wow, I've never been treated that way. He was the perfect gentleman. Yo, I felt like I was an egg in his hand. That's how he carried me, and I've never had someone who would treat me that way. So that's when the struggle started. I started to struggle. This feel good. It feels, he's good. And of course, he can change. He can change. I just need to work with it on him. I went in deep, man. Scriptures after that. Scriptures, prayer. We must pray together because I want him now, to be of the same faith as me. And then, but at some point, I'm feeling, hey, this thing is not working. Let me just cut it off. I cut it off. I break up with him. I tell him, what? My conscience, it just won't allow me. I cannot continue this relationship because we are not of the same faith. I just can't. Of course, he protests like, no, but I do now go to church from time to time, and of course we even pray together, read the Bible together, like but at that point my mind was made up because even though I felt so strongly for him, I loved him actually, and the relationship was so good. The relationship was really good, guys, and it felt good. At the same time, there was this lack of peace. When you're in something, it looks good, it feels good, but there's no peace. You know that God is not in that thing. So I knew he was not in that thing, no matter how much I would bargain with him, no matter how much I would try to get him to bless us. So we broke up. I don't think it lasted for a month. I think it lasted for a few weeks. I was so miserable, guys. I was so miserable because part of me, like, this thing doesn't make sense. How can something that feels so good be this good? And after all, what right does God have to interfere in this part of my life, when he failed to provide for all those years when I wanted him to provide? So it was this struggle, man, and I'm miserable, I'm crying. I was just miserable, guys. I don't want to lie. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible experience. So my resolve to do the right thing did not last long. Yeah, it did not last long, and before I know it, now back into the same relationship, back into the same cycle of bargaining with God, of just pushing him, pushing me and trying to impose my views and my beliefs on him. And then it really started to affect the relationship negatively, because you can imagine if someone is just imposing their views, their beliefs on you. And I hate it. When people do that, but I was doing it to someone else because I wanted my relationship to suit my narrative, so that I can feel good, I can feel right before God without actually actively choosing right. So at some point there was a pushback, he resented, and from trying to have a very spiritual relationship, it just now became very fleshly, earthly, because Now, he's not appreciating how I was coming strong on him. And so I had to take a step back, start speaking less about God with him. And, and obviously if I wanted to keep the relationship, I needed to respect that boundary. So the struggle continued. What do I do? But at the same time, the relationship is getting very serious, y'all. It's getting very serious. He is preparing to come back to South Africa to see me. We are preparing to visit his country to meet his people. So he comes and meets my parents. Yo, I thought no, before that. Before he meets the parents. So like I said, the relationship is getting serious. So before that, I go visit him. Yo, we travel, guys. I think we went to 4 countries together. So in one of the countries, he proposed. Guys, less than a year after we met, he proposed. And because, and I knew in that moment, like, as he was proposing, that there's this struggle within me. I want to serve God, but I want to serve myself. But now I also felt bad, I can't say no to this guy. I mean, I'm still gonna be with him for a few more days because I scheduled traveling after the time he proposed. So at the same time, I knew that God's blessing was not in it, but I felt somehow compelled, to say yes. And partly because I really cared about him. I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to embarrass him. So I said no. I said yes. And voila, July of 2019, I was engaged. And then I come home. I'm debating myself. Do I keep this ring on? Do I take it off? What do I do? Because I have not told my parents about this guy. So, but I say to myself, because I have said yes, I'll marry him, so I have to face everybody, including my mom. So, my mom is Adventist like me, my dad is not. So I know, like, my dad will have no leg to stand on. The only concern I had about my dad is that he may not be accepting of the fact that we are not the same nationality. And yeah, he's from a country that most people know for bad things. So, and my mom